All right, so we're gonna go check out Works, which is right around Yonge and Dundas. So this is a place that I used to go to get free needles, like needle exchange, and I believe it was a consumption space, but it might have been shut down now. Looks like it has been, actually. I don't know. It used to be. I think it's shut down now. It looks like it's all shut down. It was right over here. Yeah, it was right there. See, that's how out of the loop I am, right? Things have changed, but you come here and you could get your drugs tested, right? Make sure they're safe. You could also use your drugs here. They show you how to inject safely, and also they'd have kits available. You'd also, if you're responsible, you could bring your old used needles in exchange for fresh, clean needles, right? Yeah.
So would people like hang out around here and do it, or like you just do it at the site?
Myself? No, myself, I would just get the needles and go to usually a public bathroom, because in my day, they didn't have the consumption sites. That's a relatively new, that's a step forward, you know, for offering that. Because really for me, I've seen the inside of the majority of public bathrooms in Toronto, you know? Because when you're sick, you're like super sick. So when you get your package, you're not gonna wait till you get home. You need to get well. So either you have to go to work or you're just not feeling well, right?
So how about this Timmy's right here?
This Timmy's, I didn't spend so much time in, but down there, I spent a lot of time over there. St. Mike's Hospital.
Yeah.
So that's where they also had free needle exchange. They might even still have it. There's like a plastic case on the side of the wall, right when you walk in, filled with black, like grocery bags tied, just needles, tourniquets, fresh water. Across the street is the Pantages Hotel, which is where I would go to use, and I was kicked out of there.
But like in your day, was it a little more contained?
Yeah, it was definitely more contained. It was more like, you would see, homelessness and addiction have been, sort of like attached to each other for a long time. So that's nothing new, but I would say previously, my day, which was like 2010 to 17, you would see the majority of that outside the methadone clinics and inside the methadone clinics. Wasn't so like public and apparent, right? Yeah, so one thing I wanted to touch on before when we were talking about, what it's like to be homeless, or I was mentioning that I give money to the homeless. One thing I definitely hear a lot of people saying, and I get it, but one thing I want to share is that a lot of people say, I don't want to give money to people who are doing drugs because I don't want them to go out and buy drugs, right?
Yeah.
And so they'll say like, oh, I took this guy to McDonald's, I offered to buy him a Big Mac, he honestly didn't want anything, right? But like what people understand is like you don't have like an appetite, you're not well, you're sick, you're in withdrawal, you can't eat. You actually need drugs more than you need food at that moment. You really do. Like in order to eat, you need the drugs in order just to be able to eat, right? That's how much it messes you up. So part of the reason why I like to give money to the homeless, regardless of whether they look like they're using drugs or not, is because I know that that's what you need. I guess we go over here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's an interesting counter.
And it's honestly, it's a personal decision that somebody can make, so I can understand why not wanting to contribute to that. But at the same time, somebody wants to buy me a sandwich and I'm sick to my stomach, and I know that money will help me get straight so that I can possibly eat a sandwich, I'm gonna take the drugs before I eat the food, right? Yeah. So what's more helpful at that time, right?
Facts. Okay, so.
All right, so this is, I was here like a year ago, and I come in this area to do work. And I came in this stairwell, and right away there was like used needles, human feces, right? It was like actually pretty scary to walk down here. And security guards that obviously didn't really do much about it. But, so then I was coming up today, and it smells a lot better today, but you can still see that there's like, that's a cooker. That's what you use to cook down the heroin in the water or whatever, fentanyl, whatever they're using these days.
I guess, especially during winter, this would be a good spot, right?
Yeah, again, like now most public bathrooms are locked, right? You need to get buzzed in. Even if you can find, some of them are just always locked. You'll notice that there's a lot of washrooms that are always out of service. Like I believe that's attached to the opioid, overdoses. People don't want somebody overdosing in their bathroom, right? So I used to get kicked out of bathrooms all the time. And when you're sick, like I've used women's bathrooms at restaurants, like in the stall. And then I've heard a woman say, is that a man in the stall? Got to get out. But it's not about being perverted. It's like, I need to get better right away. That's how sick I am, right?
Yeah.
You walk around downtown Toronto and you're going to see a lot of people that look like they're on drugs or are withdrawing from drugs, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that probably the majority of them it's from fentanyl, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I can't really prove that, but and also I think when you get to a certain point, like I shared with my own experiences, it's not you're not necessarily using one drug. You're just getting high any way you can, right? So whatever it is that day, it is.
Really?
Yeah, and also, I mean, it's not uncommon. Like alcohol is more accessible than anything. So a lot of times when people are out of their mind on the street, it could definitely be alcohol, right?
Yeah.
It's the easiest to get to. I mean, I've seen people. Cigarettes, you're not going to be in psychosis from though.
Yeah.
But like alcohol, people would drink hand sanitizer. People would drink skin bracer, right? It won't even just be like people drink Listerine. I'm drinking Listerine, like to come off of drugs at the end of, so
Yeah.
when you go to rehab, they put a hand sanitizer on the wall that's foaming with no alcohol because people will drink the hand sanitizer. They'll check your mouthwash to make sure you're not bringing mouthwash with alcohol in it.
As someone who's like a recovered addict, like when you see Reed's videos, how do you feel about Reed's videos?
I think it's super cool that somebody is out there spreading awareness and doing good things. Like I think it's good content and like and helping them and like providing resources. And I've even heard him talk about how treatment isn't accessible. I saw this one video where he says, "Oh, so let me get this straight. If you want to go to rehab, you have to have $30,000." I was like, finally somebody's, So it's not just about like, why can't these people just get help? It's like, because there's no help available if you want help. Not to say that everybody wants to help.
I also think what a beautiful thing about his videos is that he humanizes the users.
Oh,
I
yes.
think oftentimes we like vilify them or demonize them or almost see them as like subhuman. But his videos are very like wholesome in that sense.
I know, absolutely. Let me pay this so I can get back to that. The humanizing is, I think, a really big, crucial part to just the chance of making recovery possible, right? Because you're already filled with like guilt and shame, which perpetuates the using, right? It drives it. So then all of a sudden somebody's treating, like I said, like when you have no money and no value and everybody's telling you that you're a fuck up and you keep losing things in your life and you're struggling, you're gonna start believing it, right? You're gonna start thinking that you're worth less than other people, and then somebody sits there and like props you up and says all these nice things about you and reminds everybody that you're actually a good person who's had some unfortunate circumstances. I think it actually gives people a chance to recover and maybe even want to recover, right? And do better for themselves.
Yeah, shout out Reed, man.
For sure. I think I really respect, I'm glad that he's making that content. So we need more of that. That's what I'm saying. It's like, you've got a page like Integrity TO, and it's like, you don't have to agree with the way everything's going, but at least like compared to Reed, he's still bringing awareness to the same topics, but they're not vilifying the addicts or making it seem like it's a burden on society, right?
Of all the major streets in the city, like where do you think the most drug users hang around?
King Street West.
King Street?
Yeah. I mean, every Friday, Saturday night gets filled up with people going to party and drink and do coke every weekend without fail, right? Well, what do you think?
That's a good question.
Like,
I mean, I feel like I see the most by like Dundas, but like that's because I'm usually there. But I also don't know who's on drugs and who's not. Like,
that's your seatbelt.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like, It depends what you're, like, where's the most public drug use?
And like, what are we defining as drug use? Like, I meant more like hard drugs, like hard illicit.
I mean, is cocaine not considered a hard illicit drug?
You're
Is
right.
it not in almost every single bar in Toronto?
Everywhere.
I've been bartending for 30 years and 29 years in Toronto. Okay, and I have seen more drugs, and I've been offered more drugs inside my work establishments and other bars than I have outside in any street in Toronto.
For sure.
So that's why I to that answer.
Why do you think that cocaine is a bit more romanticized than heroin or meth or crack? Like, even though they're all drugs and they're all hard drugs, it almost seems like less severe with cocaine as opposed to, like, you know, shooting heroin.
Because it's been you know, crowned by society as somewhat socially acceptable. So, which brings me back to my whole, like, point. A big reason why I raise awareness on my own social media platforms and, like, maybe challenge others is because I believe it's based on judgment, the lack of compassion and desire to understand opioid addiction specifically. It's just based on judgment because it's not socially acceptable to shoot up. But, you know, you tell me what the difference between sniffing heroin and sniffing cocaine is, right?
Is it the nature of the drug itself, or do you think it's purely just marketing at that point? Because we always hear that, like, you know, cocaine is the rich man's drug, and
well, that's what I'm saying. It is marketing. So it's like, so it's because all of a sudden, because cocaine is cool, we decided to say that because somebody back in the day decided that cocaine is cool and heroin is not, then all of a sudden, that's what we all decided to believe. So we start targeting and judging the things that we don't understand or accept, right? And that's why it's, like, based on judgment. Because if really what we were talking about is from a cost perspective, in terms of, like, dollar amount that it costs Canadians, how much does the harm of addiction, we would be targeting alcohol, right? Think about all of the, like, heroin addicts, like, in terms of, like, you have crime, you have healthcare issues, like all of the health issues that stem from prolonged alcohol use. You have domestic violence, right?
drunk driving.
Drunk driving, right? So, you know, I think you could also put drugs in the same category, but the leader is alcohol. But yet we don't touch that at all. We are not touching. In fact, as somebody who serves alcohol drinks and cannabis drinks, I can legally serve alcohol drinks almost anywhere. I cannot legally serve cannabis drinks anywhere. And you can go into a convenience store and purchase alcohol almost anywhere now, and you cannot purchase a CBD infused hot chocolate or tea anywhere. So it doesn't make sense to me. So it is marketing, it's money, right?
Yeah.
So it's not really about, it's no longer about helping people and taxpayers, this and that. It's all business. It's all, this is, you know, it's like, I don't know, it's not about helping people. That's all I can say. And and if it was, I think one thing we can say that COVID proved that they wanted us all to stay home for 2 years, and they paid us all to do it, and we all got paid to do it. So if they really wanted to address the situation, they could pay for every addict to go to treatment if they wanted to, but I don't believe they think it's there's going to be a good ROI on it.
And they considered the LCBO an essential business.
Yeah, and that actually, during that time, I called that one, but I was glad to see that, because the I forgot her name, but, you know, the lady who was explaining everything to all of us basically says, like, it would create a public health crisis if we were to shut down the LCBO. And people who are not addicted to alcohol didn't understand it. Like, they're like, I don't get it. Why are they staying open, right? But I understood it because it would kill people, literally. So that's just proof that our society is addicted to alcohol, and that we can't, during a pandemic, that we can't even shut down the alcohol stores. So, you know, but, like, we don't talk about that ever. We're not talking about shutting down the bars or raising the drinking age to 30 or something like that, right?
I think it really is an economy-based issue, because if you get rid of alcohol, not only are you going to get rid of a lot of restaurants who the majority of them make a big profit on alcohol, but entertainment, live concerts, stand-up comedy, clubs, like a lot of the businesses of our economy are centered around the consumption of alcohol, low key.
It's absolutely consumption of alcohol. Like think about like restaurants, nightclubs, social events, right? Like everything has alcohol at the center of it. And what I find really interesting watching the Olympics, CBC's like major sponsor is River Bets, an online gambling site. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, gambling is also a very harmful addiction, but apparently we haven't learned our lesson yet. So now we're like promoting online gambling during the Olympics, right? Like how many people are gonna look into what River Bets are, realize it's online gambling, get into it, ruin their lives, you know? But our government's basically promoting it.
I feel like that bag is just hard to say no to.
What, the online gambling? Yeah,
like
well.
They're giving CBC probably millions of dollars to promote their gambling service, but
yeah, Crown Royal or whatever, or some, Smirnoff vodka is not going to.
What do you think this guy's on?
I mean, it would be judgmental for me to say, but I mean, he could have mental health issues, but it could be a number of things.
Could be. So you're saying probably just mental?
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it's like, it's really hard to say, but he's probably using drugs, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily caused by drugs. It would be unfair for me to say that, right? So, but like drug use can turn somebody to be like that. I was gonna show you the methadone clinic I went to.
Where is it?
We went by it, but I'll go by it again.
Okay. It's still there?
Yeah, it's still there. There's no junkies outside of it or anything, but I actually went to a detox center at Queen and Ossington, right where like all the bars are, and I was there one time, and the lady who ran the place, she pulled me aside, and she was like, "You don't belong here," and I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, I see your family visiting you. I hear the way you talk. Like I don't want to see you here again. This has to be the only time you end up here. And then she like pointed to all the guys around the room, and she's like, "That guy's been here 430 times. This guy's been here 680 times. This guy has his own bed here because he just comes every other week." She's like, I don't want to ever see you here again. And I was like, that is crazy to hear that, right?
It's almost like because the resources are so scarce, we can only use them for like the worst situations. So like a lot of people in the middle are kind of like left stuck at that point because it's only accessible. Like they're like, okay, you don't need it, but this guy needs it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so
you prioritize at that point.
You go on, let's say OW, like welfare, because you're out of work, you need to get better, right? Which I've been on. And when you're on OW, they'll pay for your prescription medication, right? Mm-hmm. But the minute you go back to work, they take that away from you. But I'm just getting back to work. It doesn't mean I have a lot of money. Doesn't mean I can afford it anymore. So it almost like you get these perks for being unemployed, but when you're just above unemployment, you get almost no support. So I think part of the success rates would be elevated if they provided like ongoing maybe tiers of support where it's like, okay, you're earning this much, you're going to continue to get free prescriptions, but we can't give you, or you get less money, or whatever, some sort of aftercare that allows you to move through the stages of recovery, right, with the proper support. And I think you're going to see a lot less unhoused individuals in Toronto,
Yeah, I think it probably also incentivizes people to not get a job because they're like, okay, well, at least right now I'm getting the benefits of being unemployed.
Oh.
The moment I get a job, those are gone and I'm screwed.
Well, you don't think people game the system? Of course they do. People work for cash. Obviously, like we're talking about junkies and addicts, right? Mm-hmm. So you expect all of a sudden them to have like some sort of moral code? Obviously, so it's like, that's what I'm saying, it's a broken cycle. So here, this is the methadone Suboxone clinic that I went to for 2.5 years, from 2014 until the end of 2014 until basically 2017. Actually, it was 2015, 2017. And It was a very, very helpful facility and really opened my eyes. The things that I saw in there and the people and the state really, it made me want to, one day when I got better, was to like tell my story and explain it, because it was like third world. You know, you would never expect that in your own country, a country with free healthcare, you've got such suffering and like lack of like resources that were available, but the people that work there are some of the nicest people. And I even ran into the pharmacist, because it's half of it was like a medical center, and the other half is a pharmacist. And I ran into the pharmacist in 2020, and I'd been clean already for a year. And we ran into each other, and he recognized me, and it was like super cool, just the nicest guy on the planet. So never forget this place. Very, very, very important part of my journey.
Do you ever feel a sense of camaraderie or get sentimental when you run into people from your past when you were going through that? Or even like seeing certain unhoused people today or junkies today on the street? Do you ever feel like an odd sense of connection because you felt like, okay, I was once there?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm in touch with at least one person from every treatment center I went to. I'm in touch with some of my current recovery and like just personal mentors are two of the people that ran two different programs I went to, right? So I stayed in touch with both of these individuals. I'm gonna move before the parking guy. So I stayed in touch with both of these individuals, and to this day I talk to both of them, and they're both super important people to me. And it's just really cool that I've had a chance to stay in touch with somebody from, at least one person from each treatment center I went to, because you got to think how many people they get going through, and like the majority of people just come and go. They're like tourists, right? So the fact that I've been able to keep a connection is like super special to me. And then in terms of seeing people who are still suffering and talking to people that are suffering, I have a tremendous amount of empathy, immediate empathy for them. And like I say, if somebody wants money from me on the street and I have it, I don't ask if they use it for drugs or food. I don't care. Like, I just know that whatever they're going to use it for is what they need it for, because more importantly, it's a very tough life. And like, I can tell one story. I don't really smoke cigarettes except when I use drugs, so I don't buy cigarettes. And so back when I was using drugs, I didn't have enough money to buy drugs, needles, and cigarettes. So I bought my drugs and my needles, and I had a toonie left. I went up to a couple, College and Bathurst, Little Italy area, and I was like dressed like a normal person. I went up to the toonie, asked for a cigarette, and the guy like shielded his girlfriend and was just like, "Get out of here, go." And like that, nothing's made me feel worse in my life than that. That was like one of the most dehumanizing experiences, because I wasn't even asking for free. I was gonna pay $2 for one cigarette, right? But just I was like, I must have presented myself to them as either, like a threat or somebody that undesirable character to be in touch with, So, and I was like, wow, that made me feel like shit. And so now, when somebody, even if I don't have money and somebody asks for me, I always make it a point to respond and say, "I'm sorry, I don't have anything on me," because I think just being acknowledged and recognized is important.
Yeah, because the vast majority of society brushes those people off. They don't even acknowledge them. They might hit them with the no thanks, or but they don't want to engage with certain segments of the population.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think even sometimes when I give people money, they're surprised that I've given them money. I'll give them a $5 bill, and I just made their day, I made their afternoon. It's like $5. That means that they were probably being ignored for a long time, or even if somebody else gave them money. But, a $5 gesture makes somebody that happy, no problem, And like, I know that some people helped me out when I was in need, and so you got to pay it forward, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I honestly believe that our city would be in a lot better shape, partially due to resources and policy, but partially like due to the responsibility of the people that live in the city, Like, sometimes it's on the fortunate to help the less fortunate, right?